What's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Monday. All right, so a couple of things. We are cracking into Ruth. We are going to be going over where we are at in the timeline. There's a lot of really cool resources that are out there, and so we are going to be checking out the timeline. But let's go ahead and crack right into the scriptures. We're going to be starting off the book of Ruth, starting at chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah left his home and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons with him. The man's name is Amalek. Amalek. And his wife was Naomi. Their 2 sons were Melon and Killian. They were did I lose? Okay. Ephraimites, yeah, from Bethlehem in the land of Judah. And when they reached Moab, they settled there. When Amalek died and Naomi was left with her 2 sons, the 2 sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Orpah, and the other a woman named Ruth. But 10 years later, both Mahlon and Killian died. This left Naomi alone without her 2 sons or husband. Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So Naomi and her daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab to return to their homeland. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. But on the way, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they broke down and wept. "No," they said, "we want to go with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Why should you go on with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husband? No, my daughters, return to your parents' homes, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible, I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord himself has raised his fist against me." And again they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. "Look," Naomi said to her, "your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same." But Ruth replied, "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us." Then Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, and she said nothing more. So the 2 of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. "Is it really Naomi?" the woman asked. "Don't call me Naomi," she responded. "Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me home empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord caused me to suffer, and the Almighty has sent such tragedy upon me? So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by her daughter-in-law Ruth, the young Moabite woman. They arrived in Bethlehem in late spring in the beginning of the barley harvest. Now there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. One day, Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go out into the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it." Naomi replied, "All right, my daughter, go ahead." So Ruth went out to gather grain behind the harvesters, and as it happened, she found herself working in a field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father-in-law, Elimelech. While she was there, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you," he said. "The Lord bless you," the harvesters replied. Then Boaz asked his foreman, "Who is that young woman over there? Who does she belong to?" For the foreman replied, "She is the young woman from Moab who came back with Naomi. She asked me this morning if she could gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since, except a few minutes' rest in the shelter." Boaz went over and said to Ruth, "Listen, my daughter, stay right here with us when you gather grain. Don't go to any other fields. Stay right behind the young women working in my field. See which part of the field they are harvesting, then follow them. I have warned the young women not to treat you roughly, and when you are thirsty, help yourself to the water they have drawn from the well." Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. "What have I done to deserve such kindness?" she asked. "I am only a foreigner." "Yes, I know," Boaz replied, "but I also know about everything you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and mother and your own land to live among complete strangers. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully for what you have done." "I hope I continue to please you, sir," she replied. You have comforted me by speaking so kindly to me, even though I am not one of your workers." At mealtime, Boaz called to her, "Come over here and help yourself with some food. You can dip your bread in some sour wine." So she sat with his harvesters, and Boaz gave her some roasted grain to eat. She ate all she wanted and still had some left over. When Ruth went back to work again, Boaz ordered his young men, "Let her gather grain right among the sheaves without stopping her, and pull out some heads of barley from the bundles and drop them on purpose for her. Let her pick them up and don't give her a hard time." So Ruth gathered barley there all day, and when she beat out the grain that evening, it filled an entire basket. She carried it back into town and showed it to her mother-in-law, Ruth. Showed it to her mother-in-law, period. Ruth also gave her and roasted grain that was left over from her meal. "Where did you gather this grain today?" Naomi asked. Where did you work? May the Lord bless the one who helped you." So Ruth told her mother-in-law about the man whose field she worked. She said, "The man I worked with today is named Boaz. May the Lord bless him," Naomi told her daughter-in-law. "He is showing his kindness to us as well as your dead husband. That man is our closest relatives, one of our family redeemers." Hebrew, that was Ephah 20. I'm going back because I'm curious. Filled an entire basket. The asterisk there, Hebrew, it was about an ephah. 20 quarts or 22 liters. Living in the Dead and Ruth the Moabite. Okay. For 21. Okay, so then Ruth said, What's more? Boaz even told me to come back and to stay with his harvesters until the entire harvest is completed. Good, Naomi exclaimed. Do as he said, my daughter. Stay with his young women right through the whole harvest. You might be harassed in other fields, so you'll be safe with him. So Ruth worked alongside the women in Boaz's fields and gathered grain with them until the end of the barley harvest. And then she continued working with them through the wheat harvest in early summer, and all while she lived with her mother-in-law. All right, just checking the comments and stuff. All right, cool. We have some extra time today, so let's go ahead and hop into 3. Usually we only do 2, but let's see where we land. Actually, we may end up just finishing Ruth. All right, let's just hammer through Ruth. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you, so that you will be provided for. Boaz is a close relative of ours. He's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women. Tonight, he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. Now do as I tell you. Take a bath and put on perfume, and dress in your nicest clothes. Then go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he is finished eating and drinking. Be sure to notice where he lies down. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do." "I will do everything you say," Ruth replied. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. After Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, he laid down by the far end of the pile of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and laid down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant, Ruth," she replied. "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," Boaz exclaimed. "You are showing even more family loyalty now than you did before, for you have not gone after a younger man, whether rich or poor. Now, don't worry about a thing, my daughter. I will do what is necessary, for everyone in town knows you are a virtuous woman. But while it's true that I am one of your family redeemers, there is another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. If he is willing to redeem you, very well, let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then surely as the Lord lives, I will continue this thought on the next page." Oh, come on. "I will redeem you myself. Now lie down here until the morning." So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until morning, but she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. For Boaz had said, "No one must know that a woman was here at the threshing floor." Then Boaz said to her, "Bring your cloak and spread it out." He measured 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and placed it on her back. Then he returned to the town. When Ruth went back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, "What happened, my daughter?" Ruth told Naomi everything Boaz had done for her. And she added, "He gave us 6 scoops of barley and said, 'Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" Then Naomi said to her, "Just be patient, my daughter, until we hear what happens The man won't rest until he has settled things today. Boaz went to the town gate and took a seat there. Just then, the family redeemer he had mentioned came by, so Boaz called out to him, "Come over here and sit down, friend. I want to talk to you." So they sat down together. Then Boaz called 10 leaders from the town and asked them to sit as witnesses. And Boaz said to the family redeemer, "You know Naomi, who came back from Moab. She is selling the land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. Yeah, Elimelech. Yeah. And I thought I should speak to you about it so that you can redeem it if you wish. If you want the land, then buy it here in the presence of these witnesses. But if you don't want it, let me know right away, because I am next in line to redeem it after you." The man replied, "All right, I'll redeem it." Then Boaz told him, "Of course, your purchase of the land from Naomi also requires that you marry Ruth, the Moabite widow. That way, she can have children who will carry on her husband's name and keep the land in the family." "Then I can't redeem it," the family redeemer replied, "because this might endanger my own estate. You redeem the land. I cannot do it." Now, in those days, it was custom in Israel for anyone transferring a right of purchase to remove his sandal and hand it to the other party. This publicly validated the transaction. So the other family redeemer drew off his sandal as he said to Boaz, "You buy the land." Then Boaz said to the elders and to the crowd standing around, "You are witnesses that today I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon. And with the land I have acquired Ruth, the Moabite widow of Mahlon, to be my wife. This way she can have a son to carry on the family name of her dead husband and to inherit the family property here in his hometown. You are all witnesses today." Then the elders and all the people standing at the gate replied, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make this woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, from whom all the nation of Israel descended. May you prosper in Epaphra? Yeah. I never claimed to be an expert at these names, guys. Lost my spot. And be famous in Bethlehem. And may the Lord give you descendants by the young woman who will be like those of our ancestor Perez, the son of Tamar in Judah." So Boaz took Ruth into his home, and she became his wife. When he slept with her, the Lord enabled her to become pregnant, and she gave birth to a son. Then the women of the town said to Naomi, "Praise the Lord, who has now provided a redeemer for your family. May this child be famous in Israel. May he restore your youth and care for you in your old age. For he is the son of your daughter-in-law, who loves you and has been better to you than 7 sons." Naomi took the baby and cuddled him to her breast, and she cared for him as if he were her own. The neighbor women said, "Now at last Naomi has a son again," and they named him Obed. He became the father of Jesse and the grandfather of David. This is the genealogical record of their ancestor Perez. Perez was the father of Hezron. Hezron was the father of Ram. Ram was the father of Amminadab. Amminadab was the father of Nahshon. Nahshon was the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz. Boaz was the father of Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. And that's it for Ruth. I want to counsel right at the end there. Don't let the genealogical stuff pass you by, because the genealogical stuff, guys, we're setting the table, right? We're setting the table for Jesus. We are now, we all know a lot of the major players um of the Old Testament. And, yes, a lot of people, if you are familiar with the Old Testament, you know Ruth and you understand where this is coming from and all of those kinds of things. That being said, though, we are now setting the table for David and so on, and then ultimately Jesus. So I have a bit of a surprise for you guys. Let me see if I can make this happen. We've done this once before, so let's go ahead and share screen, and share screen, select the window, judges. Wow. Cool. All right. So, welcome to the timeline. Actually, let me see what I can do here. Let me just bop. Hey, look at that, guys. We're doing technology and stuff. All right, cool. So, this, my friends, is the timeline of the Bible. Might I suggest that if you are going to be interested in going through the timeline of the Bible, BibleHistory.com, specifically timeline.BibleHistory.com, but BibleHistory.com, and you'll be able to find it from there. Fantastic source. All right, so Ruth and Naomi come to Bethlehem. We are at roughly 1230 BC, and we are going to be moving into, now we had already heard from Samson. We are still within the boundaries of the Judges, the period of the Judges. We are going to be moving into the United Kingdom. We are very close. We are edging towards the tail end of the Judges. But I want to point something else out here. If you go out here a little bit, you'll see Gideon. You'll see that this is, we had heard a little bit from, or we had heard from Samson. We have seen some of these things playing out, and so I just want to point out that this is not completely linear. When we are reading through the Old Testament, we need to remember that we're not reading this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. Especially, I think this understanding the timeline and really exploring out and allowing for poking and prodding, and let's see where everything kind of takes place and all of those kinds of things. Especially if you can find, there's tons of resources out there. There was one that I actually found in preparation for today that actually it's actually incorporated with other history, like world history, and like the kind of world history that's taught on in schools and things like that we can see in a much wider text where this all kind of fits in and all of that. So we're roughly about 1,000 years, a little over 1,000 years pre Jesus. And so this is just to give you an idea of kind of where everything that we're at now is falling in the timeline of everything. So we're seeing that kind of the execution of what is laid out as far as proper conduct in previous books, right? We learn how to go about the process and how to go about what everyday life looks like for the people of Israel, what everyday life looks like for what to do in the case of somebody dying, in the case of needing to extend out a person's heritage and lineage and all of those kinds of things. And so we are seeing that there is a proper code of conduct and way of doing it that has a very practical implication. Now, I will say that there are parts of this that are very difficult to contextualize in 2022. I would imagine that the language that's used in the in the Old Testament has a hard time being palatable for some that are reading it. And so it's important to understand that this is something that is a byproduct of the time, a byproduct of this is very specifically for the people of that time, and all of those kinds of, it makes sense in context, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is for the people at that time. This was the way that you did things, but if you look through the lens of context and of history and all of those kinds of things, this kind of, the land, that was currency. The land, that was, that those, keeping that within the heritage was important to a degree that we don't necessarily understand. And there we have possessions that kind of get passed along from generation to generation, but not like this. And so seeing the way that all of this works out, and how this kind of leads to the continued family lineage of everybody, and of Jesus, and all of those kinds of things, it really begins to take shape on what makes sense at a larger view and a larger narrative. So a little bit of a extra long episode with being able to jump in and look at where we're at in the history. Tomorrow we will kick into Samuel, but for now, let's go ahead and pray. Father God, I thank you for today. Father, I thank you for getting a chance to go through your word. Father, I thank you for your word. I thank you for the fact that you do not hold back, even when it doesn't make sense to us, even when it's not the way that society would deem appropriate for 2022, for our modern day and all of that we can still see through time immemorial that you interact with your people, that you set things in motion, that you are God, that you are Lord. Father, I thank you that we can depend on you, that we have you to put our faith into. Father, I thank you. I love you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, be blessed, and we will catch you tomorrow.